is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 102. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him
E.
Sitting here midweek. The offseason is now truly upon us. In the Austin FC sphere, MLS wildcard game took place last night, and first round coming up this weekend. But before we dive into all of that, how you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling good, man. NBA is back. That's my bread and butter. So I'm really enjoying watching hoops again. Look, it's going to be a busy offseason for this club, and one that I'm excited about, obviously, because of the man, at the helm of the ship here. So while it's going to be a tumultuous one, I think, with a lot of, unfortunate goodbyes that might be, in store, I am excited to see how we're going to progress and how we're going to fill out this roster. Other than that, all that rain today, Luch hates it, can't get him out. So got a chance there to take him out for a moment, and he almost took me out. I stepped on some mud. He pulled at the same time, and could have been bad for this aging body. But
I was gonna say the lower half is intact after that, all the ligaments and everything.
I was able to escape with just a tweaked calf.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll rehab the calf as the week goes along here, and plenty to talk about today. I think we've got, of course, some Austin FC news. We can talk about the wild card games, preview that first round coming up, or I guess the game ones, right? We have some MLS news, maybe some draft eligibility changes coming down the pipe. We're going to talk last business day here in the still the glory of Austin FC 2's championship. We're going to take a look ahead as we are now into the offseason for FCito as well. We're going to debut the goals bracket, and the voting for that is going to start on Friday. And then, of course, the rest of the nonsense. But let's start with one of those potential unfortunate goodbyes that you hinted at. A lot of smoke right now, around one Dani Pereira. And so I guess we can kind of talk through all of this. Again, it's all smoke. It's all rumors, whispers, nothing concrete yet. But we talked about at length over the past few months about those Generation Adidas contracts and kind of our confusion around them. What I have heard to this point, and again, none of this is set in stone, but what I have heard is that there is a team option here. So we do have control over Dani's future here at this point. Whispers that the front office believes that a significant offer could be coming from across the pond over there in Europe. And we know there's, of course, kind of clouds surrounding the asylum status that Dani has here. That's prevented him from traveling to play some of those Canadian teams at times, what have you. It's prevented him from traveling to play with his native Venezuelan national team. Of course, got to play those 2 matches with them here in the States over the summer. And then Dani posts on his Instagram. We're getting very Austin FC TMZ here with this. Dani posting on his Instagram story last night a quote that says, "Risk is always better than regret." So hearing all of that, let's talk about this. What are your feelings surrounding our number 6? Because, I think we have been on the record, as are, I think, probably almost every other Austin FC fan. We would really like to see Dani stick around. And I think Wemby, you could hear him, Wemby thinks so as well.
That was definitely an eye there by Wemby for the vote. Look, I felt like there's been smoke here for a little while. Something had been going on, and I do think it's a goulash of all of Johan playing well, Dani not playing too well. This the entry, the emergence of Rodo, and the shot across the bow of Diego trade, and hey, everyone should be aware that the 10 is safe and everything else could be up in the air. So I think it's just been a mixture that's a recipe to see him leave. Again, on the last pod, we kind of talked about it a little bit, and that should be his ultimate goal if that's what he wants to pursue for his soccer playing career. You only have a limited amount of time, and to that quote, if he would regret not going over to Europe and having the opportunity to go play over there, then I would hope that he would risk it. I don't read too much into the Instagram social media posts, the vague kind of cryptic stuff that a lot of athletes do now, because it's just easy to kind of like, they always have a little loophole there where they're like, just a quote, man. It's like, all right.
Right.
So I am happy to hear the team option. Of course, I mean that, when we talked about it last episode, again, it was like, that has to be part of how this plays out for the roster for these GA guys, for the contract for these GA guys, excuse me. So look, it's the writing is on the wall there. And then if it does come to fruition, it's about, well, who's there now? How much did we give for him, and how is that money being allocated?
Right. Well, and I kind of left this out, but wanted to bring this up after we had a little bit of a start to the discussion. Another part of this Dani rumor mill right now is that there's other MLS teams sniffing around, and I don't think we have heard anything from anybody saying that Austin is just flat out rebuking those, those incursions, I guess you could say, by other teams in the league. Again, I can't say that I'm against trading anybody inside the league, because we don't know what we would get back, right? Every asset for a club has a price. But on the surface, just like it doesn't make much sense to me. Again, unless we're getting some sort of like close to MLS record level of GAM in return, or some other stud fringe all-star caliber player back along with some GAM, it doesn't make much sense to me to send Dani in league. And again, you remember too about if we got a transfer fee from an international transfer, some of that transfer fee could be converted to GAM. So it's not just the club making money by selling Dani, but that could actually expand our salary cap, through the portion that we would have that GAM. So I guess, are you with me there on like it? I just cannot fathom the deal we could get inside the league to send him somewhere else.
I don't know exactly. While you were going there, I'm trying to think of anything that I would find like acceptable. And it's like, there's players that I would trade Dani Pereira for, but I don't think they're available. And I don't know why those teams would be making that type of move. So I would be shocked if it was an intra-league move here. And, the Europe, we were talking about Dani to Europe last year. It was like, appreciate this kid now because we can't have him for that long. So if we want to admit that this is the course and how it's going to play out to ourselves, we can, or, we can just kind of look at these as just rumors and unsubstantiated claims. But VerDos shopping, we know that. We know he's got dudes in mind. And again, if it just with the Diego trade as well, it'll hurt. It'll be rough to say goodbye to Dani. He's my favorite player, pretty much. I love watching him play. And again, then it becomes who's coming. And
that could be a factor in moving somebody like Dani, right? Because, and again, this is just speculation on our part, but trying to wrap our heads around the potential for a move like this, you kind of alluded to it. There is like, maybe there's somebody that we have in mind ready to bring in at the position. And then we can, again, from a team building perspective, that looking at your cap sheet, we can really afford to move on from somebody like Dani. And I think, again, this for us being now 3 years into being, diehard MLS fans here, starting to learn about just the high turnover, or really feel it ourselves, that high turnover that seems to take place pretty much throughout the league. Of course, there are guys that have been stalwarts, not just guys that jump around like a Maxi Arruti, right? Been in the league forever, but played for so many teams. A guy like Kai Kamara, who's just, timeless, right? And has he said he wants to play another year. So we'll probably see Kai somewhere in the league next year. Hopefully not here, man. Hopefully we're not investing in a fucking 40-year-old striker. But yeah, man, we've been talking about for months that priority one in our eyes for the offseason was getting Dani a contract extension or figuring out the next steps to extend that, again, whether he had multiple team options, what have you. And for rumor season, right here, the week after the season ends, to start with the smoke around Dani potentially not being here, I won't say it's throwing me for a loop, but it's not the way I wanted to start this offseason.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, buckle up, brace yourself. It's going to be a wild one.
Yeah. I think we can do maybe next week, we can dive back into the cap sheet and do kind of another little summary. I know that it can even us, who dove in after that Diego trade and tried to learn as much about the cap mechanisms as we could. I think it could be good for everybody to have a refresher on just how much everybody's costing us, looking at our TAM, our GAM allocations, because again, cap goes up slightly next year. TAM is being phased out, so we have less of TAM next year. Maybe we can go through that next week, and I assume we will have more stuff in the rumor mill to discuss. No decisions yet this week from the front office on any of those free agents. You've seen a couple clubs across the league who are already eliminated, stating, player X, player Y, not going to return to the club. You look at Diego Rubio and Jack Price, two of the better players on the Colorado Rapids roster. They're already gone. Joseph Martinez in Miami, already gone. Another aging striker that I hope we do not sign. No disrespect to the man, but, we want a little bit of a youth movement up there. So we'll dive in more to the first team off-season prospects next week. Another little piece of Austin FC news here, and a big congratulations once again to Micah Burton, who was officially named to the U.S. U17 Youth National Team World Cup roster. That World Cup, of course, as we've said before, taking place in Indonesia next month. So Micah will be traveling overseas to take part, at least in the group stage. And that group stage schedule, you're going to have to set your alarms early for these. November 12th, I believe that is a Sunday, 7 a.m. Central, taking on South Korea. Then second group stage game, that is a 4 a.m. Central match against Burkina Faso. And then November 18th, back at 7 a.m., that should be a Saturday. This is the big one. That's against France. And the France youth national teams are, that's cream of the crop there.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I don't know if I'll be able to wake up, but it'll be fun for those who do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll certainly be keeping up with Micah and the U17s as they go. So still about 2 weeks out from that group stage. Wild cards last night, took place, and they were a little wild. First game up was New York Red Bulls hosting Charlotte FC, the 8-9 matchup, of course, there in the East. And I got to be honest, man, I see you shaking your head just hearing those two teams' names and thinking that they got postseason soccer and we didn't. Just highlights, again, the disaster that this season was, at least relative to expectation.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the quality of some of these clubs, man, and it's tough to see.
Yep.
Man, I was feeling pretty good too.
Well, damn. This ended 5-2 in favor of Red Bulls. A hat trick from Elias Manuel. John Tolkien, your boy, got one in the 26th as well. You did get like this half bike goal to open the scoring for Charlotte in the second half to pull one back. Kerwin Vargas there on a set piece. So that was a nice moment for Charlotte, but ultimately fairly toothless on the night. I did not watch that full match because, again, like you mentioned, NBA is back. There was 12 games last night, and I was surfing that league pass, baby. But I mean, you look at this here, man, and XG on target can tell a little bit of a better story in a situation like this, especially because Red Bull got 5 goals from 1.14 XG You look at that XG on target, though, 3.14. So, again, once those shots were taken, they were nice shots and accounted for a lot more XG there on target. But it's a crazy game, man. Crazy game. Like, you look at the goals map here. They've got one from, like, wide left, wide right, center left, center right, and then one from 25 yards out. Everything was going right for Red Bull last night.
It's wild. They had 36 goals on the year, score 5 in this first playoff matchup. You got to see the Charlotte celebration when they got in the playoffs?
No, I didn't.
With all the fans and stuff. It was pretty rowdy. It was fun. It looked good.
Oh, nice. Well, because they held on at home, right? They beat Messi and Miami 1-0 in that decision day match. So I can imagine. I mean, that's one thing I know about Charlotte is they have a really good fan base. They're not to the level of, Austin FC fans, but they're up there for a second-year club and playing in that massive stadium. I forget is it Bank of America out there, the Panther Stadium that they play in?
Yep.
So, I mean, that place has got to feel pretty cavernous, when you're in there and there's no fans in the upper deck, etc. But definitely a good boost for their fans to have, even though they didn't win last night, to get into that wild card game last night. Something for them to build off of heading into their second off season here.
And man, that Red Bulls club, I would hate to have to play them in the playoffs.
Yep.
Like they're going to Cincinnati now, so obviously I think they're cooked. But I mean, if they're playing any of these other teams, I just don't know who's excited about that matchup because they're just
Cincy's excited to play them either, though, right? And we'll talk about the odds later on. Vegas is giving the Red Bulls some serious respect here.
Dude, and they just play this style -3 goal difference. I can't look at it. It's just too upsetting.
So in the West, SKC hosted San Jose, of course, our opponent on decision day, who somewhat backed into that wild card after a draw. And I think they have drawn now after a 0-0 draw in regulation against Sporting KC last night. I think San Jose ended their season with at least 5 draws, if not 6 or 7. But this one last night ended scoreless in Kansas City, goes to the penalty shootout, and Sporting KC prevails. Tim Melia did a pretty darn good job in goal, almost saved more than he already did. Espinoza and Jackson Ewell. He saves Christian Espinoza's shot to open it. Jackson Ewell skies his into the blue hole there, and they end up winning 4-2. Alan Pulido was second in the order for SKC, and he took one of the worst penalties I've seen this year, and almost looked like he avoided injury, slipping on the pitch there in Kansas City, but SKC ends up getting it done. So I don't think there is a better example that we have seen in our MLS fandom through 3 years to illustrate that this season is so damn long. And if they're going to keep this playoff format the way it is, you're not out of it for shit. Because SKC didn't win a game in their first 10 matches. And now they're in the first round. Not only into the first round, but you talk about rivalry matchups, they will meet St. Louis City in the 1-8 matchup. So I'm excited for that series for sure. Yeah,
that'll be fun. Tough place to play up there in St. Louis. But, dude, I do think that there's some sort of credence to the expansion being related to Messi showing up and them obviously wanting Inter Miami in this playoff. But I think it needs to change. And now we're best of 3 here. It's just a strange format. And as you said, this season is long, man. And we're back in February. It's ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, training camp, at least last year for us, started, I believe, the first week of January is when the players reported. So again, can you imagine going all the way to the Cup final in December and then having just a month off?
Wow.
Tough, man. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a grind.
I do appreciate the league for the way they have structured this first round schedule, though, because we are going to have playoff soccer every night for about 8 or 9 days here. We've got 2 game ones coming up on Saturday, Philly and New England, LAFC and Vancouver. We've got a 3-pack of games back to back on Sunday evening, Houston and RSL, Cincy and Red Bulls, St. Louis and Sporting KC. On Monday, we've got a doubleheader, game ones between Orlando and Nashville, Seattle and Dallas, no games on Halloween. And then the last game 1 of the first round, Columbus and Atlanta on Wednesday. Game 2s will then pick up on Saturday. But again, they're certainly drawing out this playoff this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to complain. I kind of like this schedule, man. We've got really good soccer to watch every night. Maybe not really good, but we've got playoff soccer.
Yeah, playoff soccer, baby. I'm excited. It's going to be good. It's a good lineup.
So we will keep, of course, keep up to date on all of the playoff happenings there, even though our favorite team, everybody's favorite team, not taking part. Here's a piece of MLS news that I think is certainly pertinent to us, being that we have the 5th pick in this December's MLS SuperDraft. The Athletic is reporting that Major League Soccer is on track to loosen its eligibility requirements for the SuperDraft. This new format is not passed yet. It is still in the, quote, proposal stage. The SuperDraft scheduled for Tuesday, December 19th at 2 Central this year. These proposed changes would allow any player who is a collegiate sophomore or above to enter the SuperDraft. College players who are, on a team's homegrown list will still not eligible to be taken if these new rules take effect. But in past years, right, players did not need to declare for the SuperDraft. The league would make their own list of eligible players, primarily, made up of college seniors who were out of eligibility. Mm-hmm. In the past, underclassmen could only be eligible for the SuperDraft through that Generation Adidas program. So that's how we got a guy like CJ after just 1 year at San Diego State. And of course, that GA program exclusive only to the top players in the country. And this is something I did not know about the Generation Adidas program. You can only get tagged with a Generation Adidas distinction on the condition that one team in the league fully commits to selecting that player before the draft begins. So if you see a player get tagged with that GA designation, you know that they're going to get taken, and that means they are guaranteed a contract. So I like that little wrinkle. It makes sense to me. And, so, I mean, I think this can only be a good thing to loosen the restrictions and broaden the pool of talent that major league clubs can choose from in this draft, because we know that the draft, most of the time, right, we've seen guys like Dani, right, seen guys like, I believe Walker Zimmerman came out of the draft, if I'm not mistaken. Last year, right, Duncan McGuire, double-digit goals for 2-seed Orlando there in the East. So there are some real gems. And, of course, CJ at 13, pretty damn good in our eyes, of course. So under this new system, the GA distinction can still be earned by any college player, including freshmen. And that process, of course, will go unchanged. So the main difference between these players and the other underclassmen entering the pool now would be the guarantee of a contract before the draft. And I guess the last thing here in this long-winded explanation about this potential change, this plan does require and will have stipulations for underclassmen who are willing to forego remaining college eligibility. No player can be drafted twice. So that's different from like Major League Baseball. So like if an underclassman is selected in the SuperDraft, they will have their priority rights held by the selecting club until December 31st of what would be the second season following that player's draft. Beyond that 2-year window, a player's rights will be dependent on whether or not the selecting team offers an MLS contract. And so that will be, I think, you would think, probably few and far between in terms of those things happening. But good to see the protections being put in there, necessary protections for players who are going to take that chance, underclassmen without a GA designation. So I think that, in my opinion, this is just good news for furthering the league.
I agree. I mean, like, if you're good enough and somebody wants to draft you, like, it's ridiculous to be like, oh, well, you're only in your second year of college, so you can't do it. It's like, no, if you're good enough to play, somebody wants to pay you to do it. Yeah, go do that. Like, that's how it should work. So I'm glad they're implementing this, or hopefully implementing this as well. And yeah, man, let's get a good pick here. What are we, 5 or 7?
Yeah, man, we are 5th, which is just so much higher than we ever thought we would be. Again, like at any time in the near future, but here we are. And again, like hopefully there is a crop of good GA players that then we can snag one and continue adding to the list of guys that we've had. And I think through the first 3 years, we've had a pretty good run of draft picks. Again, they're not all perfect, but Val Noel was also our first round pick at the 20th spot last year, and MVP of the next Pro Championship game right there. Not too bad.
That's right. Honestly, the draft might be our best track record thus far in the organization.
Right? It's a super draft, not expansion draft. Definitely. So, I mean, speaking of Val and Austin FC too, of course, I'm sure those guys still celebrating their championship. But what we're going to do is take a look forward here and look at the contract situations for everybody on this roster. Of course, this only includes the guys on FC2 or amateur contracts. So you won't see a guy like Damian Loss, AOC, CJ on there, Kip Keller, right? These guys are our first team deals. So just real quick, E, I know you have not seen this. Let's just go player by player real quick and have a quick discussion on what you and I would do if we were in the position to make some of these decisions. And we'll just start at the top. Brian Ariano, he signed a contract through 2024, so no decision needs to be made on him quite yet. But I think, Ariano, a guy who's come through our academy, somebody who's got a good amount of upside, I think, at age 18 still in the MLS system. So I think I'm just glad that he's around for at least one more year here.
I'm very fine with that deal.
Let's just go ahead and lump these guys that are here for sure into one here. That is also Anthony De Anda, Sebastian Pino, and John Santillan. De Anda, 18 years old. We've got options for 25 and 26. Pino, 20 years old. Of course, started the majority of the games up top for FC2 this year. We have one option in 2025 for Pino. And then John, just 19 years old, I believe had a birthday in the last month or two. We have 2 option years for him as well in 25 and 26. So those guys will be on board, barring some sort of trade coming into next season. And I'm good with all of those names.
I think that's a good core. Yeah.
Micah Burton, of course, 17 years old. And we know, obviously, coming up through our academy system, he would be a homegrown player for us. But this is the one player, I believe, that we have no idea that I could find what his contract was. So that is the one fully unknown here. I imagine we would not be letting Micah Burton go for almost anything in this situation.
Yeah, let's let it be known that he's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, he's more likely to sign a first-team deal next year than to be gone, I think.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually.
So our boy, Bobasi Brahwanga, he is 21 years old. He is on loan from MFK Vyskov, and then I believe started his professional career with Vipers, which I believe I think that's a Ugandan club. And I apologize if I have that wrong. Of course, he won the FUFA Player of the Year, which is given to the best Ugandan player, I believe, in 2022. And we know that he has been back and forth with the Ugandan national team for various, World Cup qualifications, Africa Cup of Nations, things like that. 21 years old, though, here, E. What do you think about Bobo? Because he's on loan, and we have an option to purchase him here at the end of the season.
I mean, I love Bobo. I would purchase him. I think that he is not even close to what his potential as a player is, like what he's going to be able to do after a little more time, a little more experience. So obviously not on some sort of insane purchase price or whatever. I'm not sure what that figure is or could be, but I mean, I'm assuming it's reasonable. And I would like Micah, obviously a priority. Bobo's a priority for me. He's so versatile. Like, he's a great player. It seems like a really good kid. And I think, like I said, man, he's just got a shitload of potential. He just looks different now. He just moves kind of differently.
For sure.
Stands out.
Well, and I think, again, this is just speculation on my part, but I don't think it's far-fetched to think that he may have better facilities and resources here than he has at almost any point in his career in the past. I'm with you. I do think we should, again, but we don't know what the purchase clauses are here, but if it's something that's reasonable to the front office, I would love to see Bobo back. I think he is fringe. Like I don't think it's wild to see him playing first team minutes at some point.
Yep.
I don't think it's likely though, but in the context of FC2, I think he could be a pillar for this team for at least one more year, if not a few more. And who knows how much better he could get in that time, right? I do think I think I'm with you. I think his ceiling is somewhat unrealized yet.
Yeah, he on a first team deal after one really good another solid good year with FC2, could totally see it. Being like 23, getting into his body a little better with the facilities, like you said. I think that this is a dude that we can really kind of like nurture and watch him flourish.
Yeah. The captain, Joe Hafferty, contract is up this year, but we do have 2 option years for 24 and 25.
Mm-hmm.
And Captain Joe is 25 years old. So this is a guy, again, like you think he moved obviously to center back for the majority of that second half of the season and was best 11, right, in Next Pro, one of the best players in this league. What are your thoughts on Joe here? Because given the age, it's tough for me to see him winning a first team contract.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Joe? Like I would love to have him back, but I could totally see him saying, "Hey, don't pick up my options. I want to go play USL, or I want to go,"
And that's fair. Sure. I mean, I'm going to approach it from the standpoint, like you said, where we're management and we're looking at it like this. Like if he has aspirations to go and try to be a player somewhere else, a professional somewhere else, I'm all for it. It really matters the direction for me that they want to head with this team. Is this going to be more of a team where we're playing these Anthony Deondas, we're playing these younger guys, and it's all about seeing how we can grow these players? Or do we want to have a team that competes for MLS Next Pro Cups? And if you want to have a team that competes for MLS Next Pro Cups, Joe Hafferty is integral to that. I don't know if you caught it on the broadcast right after we had won the cup, and they're about to give out the MVP, but he says it goes to all 11 of us. He says it multiple times to these guys, and I think he is a fantastic leader. I think that he is really, really excellent to the development of these younger guys. Every time that I have been to an Austin FC game, I hear him talking. I hear him being positive. I hear him being a vocal leader with a little bit of aggression, a little bit of like push behind it, where it's like, you guys can fall back on me because we're going all out here. So if we want to be a good team in MLS Next Pro, I think Joe Hafferty has to be a part of our future there.
Well, and I want to make sure we also say, like, even though I don't foresee Joe getting a first team deal, but I know he has value to the first team because we've heard Coach Wolf talk about how much Joe was in practice with those guys at times this year. So again, and that is part of another thing that he can provide our club is a practice body for the first team, because he ain't backing down from anybody. He's very experienced, and like you said, he's a leader out there, so he can fit in, I would think, pretty seamlessly with wherever we want or need to use him. And I hope he's around for all of the reasons that you said. I understand if he wants to branch out somewhere else.
Absolutely.
EJ Johnson, 20 years old. He is on loan. We also have a purchase option for him from his parent club, Hibernian FC, in the Scottish Premiership. What do you think about EJ?
This is a tough one for me right now. I was particularly disappointed with the way EJ closed out the season, especially in the playoffs. It did not look like he had the right focus. I don't think that he was mentally locked in. And it was apparent with, he misses a wide open goal. The incident with the PK in which game was that? I can't remember. SKC?
That was Tacoma. It was SKC. You're right. Tacoma was the missed open net.
Yes. So, and look, again, when he's out on the field, he moves differently than anyone else we have out there. He is the most athletic player on this team. And I think when you have that type of athleticism built in, you have a floor immediately sustained, where it's like, I'm still going to be able to do things just because I'm this much faster than this guy. I'm this much stronger than this guy. And that means you can, with good coaching and development, be able to mold that player into somebody who has the entire package, the athleticism paired with the skill, paired with the focus, the mentality, the awareness. It was just disappointing to see that EJ wasn't really committed to the improvement side at the end of the season, because he kind of got lost in the rotation once CJ got back. CJ's there, he leaves, EJ kind of steps up a little bit, then we're bringing him back, we're moving CJ up and down. So with all that being said, I still think I would like to purchase him. Like he's somebody who I hope can be committed to improving and getting better. And like I said, I'm not going to judge the kid. He's 20 years old on what was the worst thing I saw out of him on the pitch in the season, and say that's who he is, because it's not. And
that's also there's also some recency bias, I think, for both of us.
Absolutely. And I mean, like at the beginning of the season, we were all in on EJ. I was like, we got to get this kid some minutes. We got to see him out there.
Especially you saw him right away and you locked it. You were like, EJ's my guy.
Yeah. And it's, and David's on the side over there, and we had CJ over there. And it's like, obviously he's not better than those guys. And I don't know if that frustrated him. But
I'm sure it did.
He wants to play. And I think that he's somebody that we can develop.
Yeah.
I don't know if he sees first team minutes ever.
I would say no.
But again, he could be an impactful player at the next pro level.
Yeah, I agree. And again, just 20. I would say I am not surprised at all if the club declines the purchase option. And potentially with the way, again, us just reading from what we can see on the dang broadcast camera, which ain't a whole hell of a lot, I think it could be better for him to get a fresh look maybe somewhere else next year. But like you, I would fully welcome him back for all the reasons you mentioned. Like I thought you put it perfectly with you have a certain floor that is sustained with the natural gifts and talents that EJ has. And his energy too, man. I mean, yeah. So we'll see on EJ. Steve Louisjean turned 19 during the year. He is up this year, and we have options in 24 and 25. This is a snap yes for me. Pick up the option, probably both. He came to this team on an amateur deal at the beginning of this season, earned his what I think is his first professional contract. And I'm not sure what happened at the end of the year, because in the last two playoff games, he wasn't even on the roster. We know he was in Columbus. My best guess is he picked up some sort of knock at the end of the year and was injured. Because when he was active, man, I think I'm just going to use the same word twice. He's so active in the midfield. I really like watching Steve out there. So I hope he's back.
It's the same snap yes for me as well. I don't know if anyone really showed the same amount of progress and growth that he did this year from start to finish. And I do think he probably got dinged up there at the end. But yes, absolutely. Pick that option up.
Sally Maz, right, who was our third round pick last year. Sal Mazzaferro, 22 years old. He is out of contract here this year, but we do have 2 option years on Sal. To me, this is a snap. Pick up the option as well. Again, I am undecided on whether or not I would say Sal could play first team minutes for us. Clearly, that's a goal of everybody on this team, right? But again, I hope we're pulling center backs from like the Ruben Gabrielson level of player to be new guys on the first team next year, rather than relying on our pipeline from our next pro team.
Absolutely. With the
not a knock on Sal,
no.
He could have been best 11 as well, because he was back there night in and night out for this team that won the title.
Yep, he became the Iron Man for that defense, really, with Cap and Joe. So yeah, that's a snap yes for me too. Both of them, if we could. He's got a lot of promise. He's a really sound defender, and if he develops that offensive side of the game, which we saw a little bit because he scored a couple goals this year.
Yeah,
you never know. Like obviously you approach this from the standpoint of, okay, like with Cap and Joe, he's 25. If you look at the bell curve of all the players who have been 25. More likely than not, he does not eventually end up with the first team.
Right.
But there are outliers in that situation where something happens like that. He's 28. He realizes something clicks, it turns. So I would like to see Sal brought back for both those years. And then again with Val, like you're same thing, snap yes right there.
Yeah, and I think for me, Val, I think my answer is decline. because I want him in a supplemental spot on the first team roster next year.
Oh.
Like, again, I don't think that Val is somebody that's going to play a ton next year. But for those guys that are on the supplemental spots, like, right, like we'll talk about, I guess we won't talk about Charlie and Alfonso and those guys because they have the first team deals. But like those supplemental spots have to be guys that we're comfortable enough to use. And I think that Val is probably a guy that the team trusts in a pinch to go out there and play some minutes, or we get into the Open Cup, not going to have a bye next year. Like he's a guy I think we can rotate in some of those games. So I would like, again, it's probably nothing more than the roster minimum for a guy like Val on a first team deal. But I would rather see him play a ton with FC2, loaned down from the first team, so we can call him up whenever we need.
I'm with you.
And, again, maybe some recency bias coming in there because he's 24. And you talk about the typical bell curve of young players, especially in soccer. It's a little bit younger than you and I are used to in like a basketball or an American football. 24 is kind of old. Like 23, 24, I think is where they say, where like your 27, 28 would be in basketball.
It's like you've realized all you could potentially be. But again, anything can happen with that. And I would love to see Val in some first team minutes. So I'm all in with your plan there.
Yeah. Chris Pinkham, also 24 years old, also options for 2024 and 25. I think I would be fine from again, just like the team building, we're in the front office standpoint, going either way here. The fan in me wants to see Chris Pinkham back because I think he's got a little bit of an edge to him. We've seen him not afraid to get in there, mix it up, get bloody a few times, win us a red card during the conference semifinal, things like that. And I think, he's certainly a little bit versatile on that back line. So I think Chris Pinkham kind of either or for me, but I would rather it be picked up and see him playing with FC2 again next year.
I think I'm either or as well, but more so leaning to a decline. I think that there's other dudes that we can get minutes there when he's been rotated in or when he's filled in. I think with the emergence of Deonda and some progression there, that those minutes need to go to him.
Yeah, and Shaik being able to play on the left or the right, Deonda's going to be on the left mostly over there. Alonso Ramirez, who you for 5 minutes were thinking about leaving out of the lineup. He's 22. He's on loan from Atlas in Liga MX, and we do not know, at least I did not see anything about a purchase option there. I hope we have one, man, because he's another player I don't think we see in the first team. But just from a next pro standpoint, he's clearly above average at worst. Alonso, 22 years old. What do you think?
Man, I guess I'm a little higher on him than you because I would be totally satisfied to see him in the same sort of situation that you outlined for Val. I think he's a player, man. I think he's a gamer. Obviously, he's coming from a solid organization with Atlas there. So, yeah, I would like to know what his options are. But to me, he's again, like you said, yeah, your 24s, your 25 is a little bit older, but he was a stud all year.
Yeah, he was.
All year he was a stud.
And he's our PK guy too.
And he came to play in the playoffs. Yeah, composure on the line, like at the spot. Like I want to see him back in some capacity.
Okay.
This is one guy I think to do just because we're coming off winning the fucking cup.
Yeah, it's like we fucking keep everybody.
Wait till we do the first team. out, get him.
David Rodriguez, 21 years old. He is on loan from Atlético San Luis. We do have a purchase option for David, and I would really love to know what the hell kind of money it would be in that purchase option. If we decline that, I expect to see him here under contract next year with Austin FC. And I think I would say Austin FC, supplemental spot.
Sign me up. Love the kid.
Yep. And again, awesome. Similar to Val, I don't think this is a kid that is going to be getting a ton of first team minutes. 21 years old, right? Again, having the ability to call him up whenever we want on that first team deal, and whenever he's not going to be used, play full 90s with FC2, getting these young guys minutes. I would imagine David is around next year. Let's hope, because that's one of the guys I think we need to keep around.
I mean, he from the day we went up to the pitch to watch it from Verde Hill, he has stood out from the very first time I saw him, and he sustained it throughout the entire season. Absolutely need to keep him in some form, some shade of green.
Yeah. So John Santillan, and I apologize to John if it's Santillan. I'm not sure what the pronunciation is there, but John is 19. Again, he's around next year in 2024, so we should expect to see him. We control his options through 2026, so 19 years old. Another 19-year-old, Leo Torres. We have 2 options on him for next year and 2025. This is, and again, no knock to Leo. He was really good in the few minutes that we saw him. I'm just indifferent here because I don't feel like I have enough. I don't have enough knowledge about Leo and his game to really know.
Refresh my memory. What's his main position?
I think he's a forward, isn't he? He came in, didn't he come in and score in his debut?
I feel like we moved him around so many different places.
They have him listed officially as a midfielder. Only 134 minutes played this year for FC2 for Leo. And he actually came to us from Real Monarchs, where he played 11 games, started 6 of them in just over 350 minutes last year. But the one goal he scored for us, that's his lone goal in his 2 seasons as a player in Next Pro.
But they have him listed in midfield, right? Like
that's what the club lists him as. Yeah.
Okay. I think he came in for that first substitution, and weren't we down, and we pushed up to like a 2 strikers set, and he got on the board.
Find it right now. That was against, I believe, the Galaxy on July 30th. So we'll pull up that game, and we will see what happened there against the Galaxy if the club site will load here. Here we go.
So he's under contract.
Win.
Okay, so I was way off. So he's under contract next year, and then option on 25. Let's see what we get out of him next year. I think that's one where we can push it to the back burner and see how his season goes in 24. And like he's 19, so he could have a big step here. And he's this team all year long as well showed really great chemistry. Seemed like they really enjoyed being around one another. So I want that to be intact as much as possible.
So Leo came on in that game for Cristo Vela, and I'm watching the goal right now. I believe it was a Czech playing. Yeah, so Czech plays it back to Val. Val crosses in, and Leo comes flying out of nowhere, heads it home for the 3rd goal in that one. So again, very limited minutes that we saw Torres this year. And so, I mean, 1 goal in 139-ish minutes or whatever I said it was. That ain't bad.
No, not bad at all.
Sheikh Touré, 22 years old. We have 1 option year just for this next year. And, man, he's a guy I think less so for me in terms of a priority for a supplemental spot than Val and David. But I would not hate to see somebody like Sheikh Touré in a supplemental spot, because we know when he came to us from Young PSV, he was a winger, a la John Gallagher, made the conversion late in their season last year to be a fullback, played fullback all year for Austin FC2. And we saw him joining that attack consistently and being a threat and having those long distance shots, right? And then improving, I thought, throughout the year to where in that playoff run, man, on the right, he was a menace defensively back there. Again, part of that defensive line that did not let up a goal in the playoffs during open play. And so, just the way the first team plays with those fullbacks pushing forward and overlapping the wingers on those sidelines, I think Touré is a guy that can play that role, as a converted winger. I would not hate to see him get one of those supplemental spots either.
That's a great point. And look, we're both approaching this from the standpoint of like, things are going well with the first club, and we're getting some rotation for the younger guys. And that's where we want to be.
Yep. Cristo Vela, 19 years old. He is on loan from Cancun FC. I believe that is in the Liga MX Expansión. I think that's like their second division there. We also don't know actually his options on his deal. I would imagine there's some sort of purchase option in there. And I would welcome Cristo Vela back to Austin FC too. No first team consideration for me there, at least quite yet.
Not yet for the first team for sure. But he really stood out in these playoffs, man. Came to play.
Mm-hmm. And Spencer Sanderson on that amateur deal. He's going to be at University of Virginia next year. So we won't see Spencer, but we'll be keeping up with his, career out there with UVA. So nice little, little exercise there. Kind of see what we're up against here this offseason with the defending next pro champions, and not sure what the timeline is there for off-season decisions, but when they start coming, we will certainly be paying attention and cover them here on the podcast. One more thing before we close it out with the nonsense, and I guess, this is pretty much nonsense as well. Let me pull up the 2023 goal of the year bracket. We did the bracket last year. Musa Jite ended up beating out Danny Houston's volley for the title last year. And I'll zoom in a little bit for you here. We've got, again, 4 regions. Last year we had the West, the East, the Driussi, given how many goals he scored last year, and the Sentimiento region. And we also had a 64-goal bracket last year. Not so many to choose from this year, so we've got a 48-team bracket here. You've got 12 teams in each region, and the top 4 seeds in each region getting a bye to that second round. So we've got the West, again, all goals coming against Western Conference opponents. We've got the East, and we did not have enough goals against our Eastern Conference opponents to fill out the 12-team bracket, so you will find goals against Violette and against New Mexico in the East region just to fill out the bracket. And then we've got the Verde and the Vibes region here.
Oh.
Looking at, we actually may shift, you and I, still debating on a couple of these seeds. So when the final bracket is posted on our Twitter tomorrow, some of these may change, but I think we've got these 1 seeds and a lot of these top seeds locked in the West. 1 seed, Diego Fagundes, 42nd minute against Dallas at home. That is that long looping chip of a shot into the back of the net over Martin Paz against our Texas rivals, the 1 seed in the West. You get over to the East, you see Alex Ring, 4th minute of stoppage time at New England. That is the 1 seed in the East region. We go down to the Verde region. Right now, John Gallagher, 9th minute at RSL, the banger off the crossbar and in to kind of kickstart the season there, because obviously it was pretty rough to that point getting that first victory on the road in 2023. Then you go to the Vibes region, E. Who else could it be? Rodney Redis and his first goal in the 24th minute against New Mexico in the Open Cup. So those are your 1 seeds. Again, some of the methodology here, we had, something similar this year. We've got goals from losses, right? Cannot be higher than a 4 seed. Game winners must be higher than a 6, and goals that set a milestone of any kind must also be higher than a 6. Less milestones set this year, at least in a positive manner, right? And we will not be seeding based off negative milestones that this team set. So excited to get this started. Going to probably be, I think it was 2.5 weeks last year of voting, getting this bracket all the way down to our goal of the year here in 2023. And, trying to have a little fun here in an off season, especially while we wait for the real news to percolate up to the surface come December, rather.
I mean, it was super fun last year. It's going to be super fun this year. And, I'm excited to see how it plays out. Got to get Papa Bruin in there.
Yeah. I mean, and I think Bruin's all of his goals pretty highly seeded here. Yeah. So let's close it out here, E. with the bets, and I finally tabulated our just disgusting performances over week 39 and 40, week 39.
Look, it's better to risk it than to regret. All right, so I risked it, and I don't regret it.
Minus 3.05 units in week 39, minus 3.65 units over the weekend. And yeah, Austin FC2 saving us from sure disaster with that plus 190 victory. So I'm going to make a couple picks here in the MLS playoffs. And I'll get us started here, E. Game 1, Cincinnati hosting New York Red Bulls. I kind of hinted at earlier that Vegas giving Red Bulls some respect. We got this at minus 110, Cincy to win at home against Red Bulls. That line has already moved to minus 120. So again, I think everybody else may be jumping on that number as well as soon as it was posted. So we'll take Cincy minus 110 hosting the Red Bulls in game 1.
Very nice. I'm going to go to what should be a fun game in St. Louis and SKC. Get St. Louis at home plus 100 even odds. They're a good team at home. They've been the best team in the West all season pretty much. So taking them.
Yeah. We'll see how they can do when the real pressure is on here in the playoffs. I'm so excited for that series, man. St. Louis versus Kansas City. It's going to be a good one. I did not mention negative 39.56 units on the year now. So we are trying to stave off that negative 40 mark. And one thing that would do it in a big way for us, let's pick our winners. We're each going to take a team from each conference. Okay. And let's start with our Western Conference picks here. I mentioned this on episode 101. Give me Seattle to win the whole thing at 14-1 here. I like that as the 2 seed, going to be at home unless they meet St. Louis in the conference final. And I think even then, the experience of this Seattle team, one of the best defenses in the league with only 32 goals given up. I'm going to go with Seattle 14-1.
Yeah, I mean, they do it all the time. So not too bad of a pick there. Look, I'm just going to put a disclaimer on this bet here, y'all. All right, this is just gambling. All right, we're just looking at the numbers. Okay, looking at the numbers here. So I'll take Houston.
and what did you say? What did you took who?
Houston plus 2,500.
Houston 25-1 for E.
Yeah. All right. Look, they're not bad.
I mean, they're hot right now still.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say they're not bad, and I like the numbers. That's all I'm gonna give them. They're not bad. I like the numbers.
25-1 for the Dynamo to win the MLS Cup. Let's head east, where I will take Wilfred Nancy and the Columbus Crew, the team named, I believe, in the Dani intra-league trade rumor. Yeah, I mean, he would be replacing Darlington Nagbe there. They're not too dissimilar. Yeah. But they are 12-1 here to win the whole thing. And, with Cucho and Rossi and Nagbe, etc., and Wilfred Nancy on the sideline, I'm going to take Columbus 12-1.
Very nice. I'm going to take another powerful club at 12-1 odds, and that's Philadelphia Union.
Nice. We love it. So I'll close it out. Just one NFL pick here this week, E. I'm going to go back to our boy, Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to go over 272.5 passing yards here. That's minus 115. I've got him projected for 317 passing yards here, so we'll see.
I got him projected for like 52 fantasy.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Well, we are facing off in the most important, the greatest fantasy football league in the world this weekend. That's where each of us have a number of championships there, and we'll leave it at that. Let's close it out, E, with some season-ending nonsense here. Awards ballots, okay?
It's not nonsense.
It's a little bit of nonsense. There's more nonsense coming that you don't know is on the docket here. But let's give our awards ballots.
Okay.
MVP, Coach of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, Young Player, Goalkeeper, Defender of the Year, and Comeback Player. Who you got for MVP?
MVP, Lucho Acosta.
Okay, so best player from the best team?
Yeah, I mean, I was initially when you sent this to me, I was like, man, I can't get over how good Edward Lewin is and what he means to that team. And Lucho just had such a season, and the Cincinnati was so good. It was near impossible to not give it to him.
Yeah. I also have Lucho, 31 goal contributions for the Supporter Shield winner. So, to the victor goes the spoils. And I think Lucho probably going to take home that MVP trophy. Into Coach of the Year, I've got Bradley Carnell from St. Louis. I think there's a number, just like there were last year, a number of deserving candidates here. Of course, you could talk about Noonan at Cincinnati. Again, the coach from the best team, obviously deserves a shout. I think Nance again, maybe tough to get him back to back there, but 3 seed for Columbus. Man. I mean, I think even Ben Olsen in Houston could maybe garner some votes there, but I took Carnell, 1 seed for the expansion side. Really impressive.
Yep, that's who I got as well. We kept thinking that they were going to fall off, and they did not.
And I stuck with that maybe a little bit too long, I think. So, newcomer of the year, who you got?
I went to my boy Leuven there.
Okay, there you go.
He just does so much, and watching him throttle us 6-3 definitely left an impression on me. And both sides of the ball, you get Lucho with those 31 goal contributions, which is fantastic. But Lewin plays both sides of the ball and is just such an impactful player. A lot of fun to watch. So he was the newcomer for me.
I'm going to go to our boy, definitely my boy here. Give me Yorgos Yakumakis as the newcomer of the year. 17 goals for Atlanta United, and spent a decent amount of the season in and out of the lineup, struggling with soft tissue injuries. I think he's a guy that, come early next year, we might be looking at odds for a Golden Boot winner there in Yakumakis.
He can score.
Yeah. Young player of the year. I imagine Thiago Almada is going to win this. I went a little bit off the board. I didn't want to give Atlanta, and I don't think they've been very good this year. I didn't want to give them a ton of awards here, multiple awards. So I went with Aiden Morris. And I feel pretty good about Aiden Morris. You could also see a guy like Alan Velasco in here, right? Going to that U22 under 22 list is a pretty good bet for the best candidates here. But I went Aiden Morris.
I mean, you're probably right with your assessment on Almada there. I'm going to John Tolkien. He's a really good player. And look, that Red Bulls club, you look at that team, you look at that roster, you look at the way they started, and for them to have made it to their 11th or 12th consecutive playoff berth is just really impressive. And, he's the one guy on their team who night in and night out, you were getting high level of performance on both sides of the ball.
All right, goalkeeper, who you got?
I went with Berkey. Again, just a fantastic keeper. Top of the table with St. Louis there, so hard to deny him. Yeah,
Roman Berkey might receive a couple votes for MVP, or maybe did. When I think they've narrowed it down to like a field of 3 for each of these just this morning. But I also had Berkey, and then Defender of the Year. Obviously, a number of deserving candidates here, but I went with Yeimar. Just the utmost respect for that Seattle defense this year, and he's kind of the head of the snake there. So I went with Yeimar.
The Seattle defense, like we looked at earlier before the show, tied for the lowest amount of goals given up this year. So I went to their defense as well, but I went with Nuhu. I just really like his game. And like you said, they were a fantastic unit all season long and really kept that team afloat when they were kind of looking rough. And now they're in the 2 seed. And just a great team.
Who do you got for comeback player? Last award on the ballot here.
Another dude who left an impression on me, watching him score goals all over us. Alan Polito had a great season. SKC obviously still alive in the playoffs. And he was fun to watch.
Yeah. I think that's one thing I guess I like about my ballot is only one of these players and the coach, I guess, really, just gave us nightmares this year because Seattle wasn't too bad. It was the officials that we blamed after the loss, and we beat them up there shorthanded. Talking about Seattle here, my comeback player, Joao Paulo, coming back off the ACL. Again, not on that back line, but playing the 6 for Seattle. He's kind of he's kind of the point man there defensively for Seattle. And you saw the improvement they had year over year. Obviously, after CCL, he tore his ACL in the final. They were bad, missed the playoffs for, I think, the first time in 10 years last year, and then back in the 2 seed here this year. So Joao Paulo gets my nod there.
Nice.
So there is our awards brackets. And E, talked to you about this a little bit earlier this week, but didn't put it on the rundown. Our over-unders from preseason. We're over an hour here, but I want to do this just for fun, okay? Because I have tallied the scores. And so we'll go, we each asked each other 10 over-under questions. I set 10 lines for E. He said over under those props, and vice versa. So the ZG questions to E went like this. Get ready for a couple of laughs here, E. First question was number of Emiliano Rigoni MLS regular season goals. That line was set at 9.5. E took the over, and Rigoni scored 5 regular season goals. Question number 2 was the number of MLS regular season home games that E would miss, and that line was set at 2.5. E took the over, and E missed just 2 games.
What?
Montreal and New Mexico. So E, you missed on that one as well.
The COVID? I was out with COVID.
So you missed Verde Wedding, Montreal, and we knew that at the time that we set the line. We knew that we had that game that we were going to miss, and then New Mexico was the COVID game.
And no, I missed 2 games because of COVID.
You missed a road game. I went back and looked. You missed a road game and 1 home game.
What do you mean missed a road game?
Well, you weren't here. We watched the games together.
Oh.
And these were home games. We're talking about home games here.
All right, keep going. Let me verify this shit.
All right. As you do that, the third prop was number of games in all competitions started at right back by John Gallagher. That line was 5.5. E took the over, and that ended at 13. So well done by you, sir. Fourth prop here was the number of goals from center backs in all competitions. That line was set at 6.5. E took the under, and it was 5. So E gets the point. 2 from Julio, 1 from Matt Hedges, 1 from Leo, and then 1 from who else did? I apologize. I don't have that in the notes, but I do have this quote from going back and listening. E said, Julio is good for like 2. And there you go. 2.
There we go.
From Julio Cascante. So regardless, the under hits, E gets the point.
Bonus points.
Prop 5 was the length of Diego Fagundez's upcoming potential. He had not signed yet. The upcoming potential contract extension, including options. And the line was 2.5 years. E took the over. You said 2 plus an option year, and that was 4. 3 plus an option year. So E gets the point there. And now Diego no longer on the teams, but E gets the point regardless. Prop 6 was total number of Austin FC goals scored in the MLS regular season. That line was set at 65.5. E took the under. Point. That number was 49. So definitely informing ourselves on how to make some better lines next year, not getting caught up in all the excitement. We did note multiple times that we were taking so many overs. We were setting ourselves up to look very bad here at the end. But I don't think this is terrible at the end of the day. Number 7 for you, E, was Brad Stuver goals conceded per 90. So MLS regular season games only on that one. And the line was set at 1.5 goals conceded per 90. You took the over, and it was 1.61 goals per 90. So well done by you. Unfortunate for us, but you get the point.
That's right. It's just gambling.
Number 8 was most red cards by a single Austin FC player in the MLS regular season. That line was set at 1.5. You took the over, noting that Alex Ring was still on the team. That number ended up being just 1. So you missed that point on question number 8. The 9th prop that I gave to you was there are 28 teams in the MLS Next Pro division. Will Austin FC 2 finish above or below 11.5 place? And in the regular season table, EU took above. And Austin FC 2 was tied for 7th in the league, so you get the point there. And then the final one, number of goals for the MLS Golden Boot winner. That line was set at 22.5. EU said over, and you miss out on that one. Buonga wins with 20. So 6 points for E out of his 10 questions. And these were the 10 props that E posited to me. He started also with a Rigoni prop. Rigoni regular season assist. That line was set at 9.5. And of course, I took the over. And Emmy had just 6 assists, rather, not goals, 6 assists in the regular season. The second line, Austin FC trophies in 2023. That line was set at 1, and we said that Copa Tejas counted as a trophy. I took the over. The line was 1, so I lost that point as well. Oof. You then said number of Sebastian Driussi MLS MVP awards. You set the line at 0.5. I took the under. He did not win MLS MVP, so there's my first point on the board. You then asked me the most goals scored in a single game by any player in MLS this year, and you set that line, and I think I scoffed at it when you said it, at 4.5, and I took the under, but it got damn close at the end of the season with Teemu Pukki scoring 4 goals, so squeaking by with a point there for myself.
Jordan Morris right out the gate.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like dude scored 4, there was a whole break, and then 4 at the end. It was right there.
You then asked me this line. 7.5 was the line for most total goals in a single game in the league. I took what I called at the time an easy over, and we even exceeded that with the 9 goals scored against St. Louis in the losing effort. So another point there. You then asked me the number of goals scored by Mr. Rodney Redis in all competitions. You set that line at 1.5. I took the over. It was 2. So another point for ZG. Then Rodney. Number of MLS All-Stars from Austin FC. You set that line at 2.5. I took the under. It was, of course, just the 1 with John Gallagher. Number of multi-goal games from Giassi Zardes. You set that line at 2.5. I, in my infinite wisdom, said over, and it was 0. So lost the point there. And then there's 2 more here. This one, and it kind of sucks this didn't happen. Would have given us a little bit of joy in the midseason. Goals versus a potential game against Wrexham. That was set at 4.5. I took the over. The game didn't happen. And we did have the foresight to say if that game doesn't happen, that is voided. But obviously it doesn't matter. Now, the last one was the number of Twitter followers for the North End podcast by the end of the calendar year 2023. You set that number at 999.5. I said over here on October 26th. I actually have the Twitter sitting in front of me right now. We are at 1,089. So point ZG there, which brings the scoreline E to 6 for E and 6 for ZG. And we did say on the pod, if we have a tie at the end, we'll figure out a tiebreaker at the time because we did not plan ahead enough. So, of course, we end in a draw here. And you know what? I think we just roll it over to next year. We end in a draw. I
think whoever wins the fantasy football matchup this week.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Make it a little more spicy.
Okay, so let's we'll give the people who have some sort of semblance of knowledge about these names and just how potent they may be in a fantasy football matchup. This league, for those so inclined, is a 53-man roster salary cap dynasty league. It's the greatest fantasy football league in the world, and yes, there are 10 legit maniacs participating in this, including us too. So we'll just list the offensive players because with 53 players on your dynasty roster, you start 11 players on each side of the ball. So we won't deal with our defensive lineups, but here's E's offensive players that he is currently starting in this matchup. Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, Jahmyr Gibbs, Raheem Mostert, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift, Christian Kirk, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller.
Woo!
than on my side. Just hold your woos, hold your dams. Listen to this.
No.
Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, Brian Robinson, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Mark Andrews, T.J. Hockenson. Woo! Damn.
Fell asleep. Man,
and
getting old like your team.
And yes, we are currently tied at the top of the standings.
No, we're not.
Are we not?
I'm ahead of you. I have more points.
Oh my God! Shut up. We're both 6-1. You loser.
I'm ahead of you. Look at
ahead of you.
Pull the
Just because I
screenshot
scored
up.
30 more points.
Them's the rules, brother. If playoffs started today, I'm the 1 seed. That's how it goes. I don't know there's no draws in fantasy football.
Who won most recently?
Come on. We got
answer the question. Answer the question.
I'll answer it with a question. Who has the most?
No.
We got to.
All right, everybody. That is enough of that bullshit on episode 102 of the North End podcast. If you've got 5 extra seconds, and look, if you are still with us after all that, you've got 5 extra seconds to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. We would greatly appreciate that. And make sure you drop the North End podcast to all of your friends who may like Austin FC or podcast. Get us in your friends' content rotation. If you're watching this episode on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Help us grow the podcast in that manner. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the, I guess we can call this a decision day matchup for the over-unders in the Dynasty Fantasy Football League. We will be back next Wednesday, off-season, episodes just once a week now. Back next Wednesday, talking everything Austin FC. I imagine we will have more rumors. We may have some roster decisions. We will go through the Austin FC salary cap sheet that we have here in the North End podcast studios. And of course, talking about everything else that happens in between in the Austin FC universe. We greatly appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 102. Until next week, he's E. I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.